to the Career Corner. My name is Heather Swift, and I'm delighted to be your host. The purpose of the Career Corner is to move people from career distress to career success. Today's guest is Paige Continentino, who is a certified life coach, and she specializes in supporting women through various aspects of their lives and careers. Paige, thanks so much for joining us on the Career Corner.
Thank you for having me.
So for being a life coach, can you give us a little bit of a description? Exactly what is a life coach?
Right. A life coach is someone who works with a person who is looking at where they are in their life and where they would like to be. And if there's a difference between those, someone who's taking stock and saying, whether it's career, relationships, lifestyle, it can be anything. Really.
So it kind of runs the gamut. How would one decide, I think I'm ready for a life coach? Are there certain moments where there's a paradigm shift happening where someone would want to call you and tap into you as a resource?
I think when anyone is ready to actually make a change, when they're feeling they're stuck and they're not getting where they want to go, or they know they want to make a change, but they just need someone to support them and to hold them accountable to get there.
How long are most traditional cases when you start working with someone, or is it kind of like a long-term relationship at times because there's constant move and flow and different issues that kind of pop up?
Right, it can be anything. In fact, we say a minimum of 2 months, and it depends on if a person is working on a specific goal, something they want to achieve in a certain amount of time, or if they just want the ongoing support. And a lot of people do continue with coaches for years. Yeah.
I know at Lehigh Harrison we do executive coaching with people in corporate America, so the focus is very much business driven, although you can't totally separate the personal of what you bring to the table in that way. And I think we find that in the beginning part of any coaching relationship, that's where you uncover maybe the issues or the opportunities for change.
Right.
So once you dig all that up, then you need to really come to terms with what you've uncovered and how you would like to lay the foundation for moving forward. Do you agree with that? Kind of like you stir it up, then you don't want to just end the relationship because then you're kind of in a little bit of turmoil as to what maybe is surfacing?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think that whenever anyone starts a coaching relationship as a client, you should be prepared to work for 2 to 6 months with a coach to really have the time to bring those issues up and work through them, because you don't want to stop. If you've just found something, the last thing you want to do is say, okay, I'll take it from here, and then stop working on it and not follow through.
So, and I know you specialize in supporting women.
Yes.
So being one, I think that's fabulous. It seems like that life is getting more busier and more complicated, not less, even with all the technology and everything. Can you talk to a little bit about that? What are you seeing in your clients right now that is just adding to the plate?
I see a lot of women who are mothers, and also either they work full-time, or if they don't work full-time, they find a way to fill their time doing other activities like PTA activities.
The garden projects, there's so many great things.
Oh, there are so many great things to volunteer for, and in the end they end up, I think, giving as much time as they would be if they were working
I almost
in a
think
full-time
it's
position.
Being a working mom as well, I feel it's almost harder to stay home full-time and being the executive of the household with everything that includes, because you're not taking anyone to lunch. No one is giving you vacation time. Like I have a lot of respect for my girlfriends that have chosen that career or opted out of corporate America for a little while to do that. And then there's those of us trying to do both, which I feel for us too.
Yeah.
I feel for everybody.
Right. I mean, I think it can be crazy on either end, and we end up with just so many things to manage. Our schedules, kids' schedules, our husband's schedules, sometimes the whole family's schedule, and then PTA, like we were saying, school events, sports, all of those things, and we end up taking on so many different responsibilities with each of the roles that we fill. And I think that a lot of times women can end up losing track of themselves somewhat in the middle of all that, and forgetting a little bit of what they want out of life, aside, in addition to all of that. Because all of that is good. It's not to say that's bad, but it's easy to just do that and forget about, personal growth, where you want to go, what do you want to accomplish.
Even just exercise or doing something, getting on a yoga mat, once in a while.
That's such a great thing to do. Yeah.
And you mentioned about even running with a husband's schedule or spouses and partners' schedules. There seems to be a lot that is in the world of the female and the mommy.
Yes, we take care of everyone, right?
Yes.
We're the nurturers.
Yes, that seems to come with, when you sign on the dotted line, for mommyhood and things, that definitely enters into that space.
Yes, absolutely.
How did you know that you wanted to be a life coach? What was kind of like your own personal clue that, you know what, I have these gifts to give or perspective to share?
Right.
How did you decide that?
Honestly, I knew nothing about coaching when I found the program that I ended up going to. I decided I wanted to be a coach from reading the description and saying, this sounds exactly like what I would love.
So it just totally
to be doing
resonated
in my
with
life.
you. And you're
Yeah,
like,
and
this
at that
is
point
it.
I still knew nothing
Okay.
about coaching. And then I went to an introductory session and I just loved the approach. I loved what they did. I loved the transformation that I saw in the person who
Okay.
was our example. Coaching example. So it was just incredible to me, and I thought, this is amazing. This is what I want to do.
You're like, I can be this when I grow up? Yeah.
Exactly, and it took me a long time to figure that out, so it was great.
How do you coach women when they come to you saying, I'm stuck in a job, I need to pay the mortgage, but I'm not happy? What do you say to them? Because in this
Right.
economy, I think a lot of people are finding themselves, aren't I lucky to have a job? And if you're miserable, I think people convince themselves of that, even when there might be opportunity elsewhere. Everyone's
Right,
saying, well, you're
yeah.
so lucky you're working. Yes, work is always a blessing. However, ... Oh, life coach, tell me, what would you say?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think you have to take into account all of the different factors. You have to look at the big picture of your life, what you're doing, something I love to do, which I think is a great exercise, is actually draw the picture of your life. Nothing detailed, stick figures, but get that snapshot, and it gives you just a different way of really seeing what's not working. You might be feeling, like this little squashed figure under the weight of everything you're carrying while someone else is to the side, or it's just good to see how it's all fitting together and in what areas you're not happy. Because sometimes it's not about changing a job. Sometimes it's about finding those activities that are fulfilling and exciting to you and bringing them into your life to balance things out.
Okay.
Though if it is about, really something that's maybe going against some core values of yours in the work that you do, then I think it is a good idea to look around and see what else is out there. Yeah.
I think that's great advice, because you can't always find your passion in your job. It's ideal,
Right.
but if you're in a job where maybe you're not so passionate, or maybe you're just burnt out because that's all you've been and done for so long, to be able to find that elsewhere, to all of a sudden the job maybe isn't so bad if you're finding other interests. Is that kind of a shift that can occur?
Absolutely, and there's also the approach of bringing more of yourself to work, which is something that I think can be a bit
You bring
of a
your
challenge.
whole self to work, kind of,
yeah,
yeah.
It really is, because we get into that idea of who we are at work, which isn't necessarily who we are at home, who we are outside of work. And I think it can be very fulfilling to be more of who you are at work instead of feeling like you lead these separate lives.
I once had a boss tell me he wished I looked a lot more serious when I was working hard.
Yeah.
Because I'm not serious. Like I bring light and humor. I can't help
Right.
it. And he said, because that way when people saw you, they'd say, what's wrong with Heather? And I'd say, nothing. She's just working really hard.
Right.
And I remember saying to him, like, but that's not me. Like, why can't we have fun while we're working hard and busting our butts? There's no
Right.
reason why it has to be mutually exclusive. He ended up being let go.
Right, yeah.
But I thought, wow, if that isn't old school, and he was,
Absolutely, because I think the modern approach to that is, look how happy the employees here are.
yeah,
Wouldn't you love to work here?
yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to everyone's serious with their heads down, because
Yeah,
that means that,
absolutely.
productivity is at a high.
Right.
So I think it's interesting now, because so many people have to be working so hard, and with the layoffs that have occurred, people are having to make more with less. Even our educational system with what's going on,
Yeah,
that
right.
all of a sudden the extra work, the work isn't going away, but the people are.
Mm-hmm.
So that adds even more to,
Yeah.
everyone's plates.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you finding that there's more career stress related topics that you're working through with women now as compared to family, or is it always kind of maybe kind of an equal shift depending on who you're
Yeah,
working
not
with?
really, not really. I think it's really still, most of the women that I'm working with are really looking at what's going on in their lives right now, that in a deeper level. Am I doing what I want to be doing with my life in a bigger picture, or am I where I want to be? Is this going to take me where I want to go? And a lot of times it's around relationships and not always around work. I think that, you know, we really have to focus on the balance and bringing in wellness and fulfillment into all of the areas in our lives as much as possible, because the work part can feel very overwhelming if you don't have that excitement in the rest of your life. So we spend so much time at work, right? I mean, so much time.
More time with our colleagues than with our children and spouses and
Right.
partners sometimes.
Yeah. So even when, because work is work in the end, and as much as you love it, and it can be great, it can be something that just keeps you going, and that's wonderful. And it can also tire you out, and it can keep you going and tire you out. But you always want to have that balance of, when you're not at work, doing things that you love, that you enjoy, that also give you energy, that give back.
That's true. It's fun to find ways to incorporate that. And how do you coach women to look for that? What do you recommend that they do if they're realizing, you know, I need something else, even in the ways of volunteer work, because there's such a good payback feeling when you're helping other individuals that maybe less fortunate, or just sharing your skills in a way that people appreciate, that maybe need exactly what you have to offer.
Right. I think that it's really important to look at, first of all, you have to look at what you love to do, what you're passionate about. I think that a lot of times we kind of set that to the side, and passion is such a strong word, you know, we kind of are afraid to use it. But it's good to be passionate about things. It's really good to connect to that in yourself, because that's what brings you alive. So really getting back to you and what you love is so important. And then bringing that into your life, and that connects you to your values. And so then when you're living those things, you're also living your values, and that gives back to you and is rewarding and gives you a deep sense of satisfaction.
Do you find that there are certain women you're working with that, depending on which generation they grew up in, that there are certain elements that they're kind of butting heads against with, you know, ideas that were put upon them versus their organic ideas of themselves? You know, it's like our mothers and our grandmothers, they had certain glass ceilings that were much lower than what our daughters now are going to have. So it's like, depending on the generation you're almost supporting, you might have some old school themes kind of helping people work through to say, you know what, you really can go and do this if you want to do this. Are you finding that so much, or?
I see that sometimes, yeah, and I think that I see it most often in family dynamics.
Okay.
You know, who's responsible for what, and just how it comes together. You know, who we are in the family, and what responsibilities the mom has and the woman has, and those things have changed so much these days. Now we have a lot of stay-home dads and women who are working, but there's always that. I find it very interesting, actually, and I think that in there is where you find conflicts.
I'm not surprised, actually, because everyone's wearing some pants these days.
Yes.
They come in all sizes for everybody, so there's not just one for sure. Well, we're going to be taking a break in a moment. So when we come back, maybe we can dive more into some tips for people that feel like they might want to go through their own transition or paradigm shift.
Sure.
That. Yeah. We'll be back in a moment with Paige Continentino, our life coach here in Maplewood, New Jersey.
Hi, I'm Attorney General Martha Coakley. If you have trouble making mortgage payments or are facing foreclosure, ask your lender about a loan modification. Some businesses may try to charge you advance fees for this service. This is illegal. Nonprofit housing counselors are available for free in most communities. For more information, visit our website at mass.gov/AGO or call us at 617-727-8400.
Hi, welcome back to the Career Corner. We're here today with Paige Continentino, who is a life coach, and we're talking about women going through transformation and creating a paradigm shift. So can you talk a little bit about how to live more wholeheartedly? I know that's a theme that you love to dive into with your clients.
Yeah.
And how does one go about doing that when they want to go through transformation?
Right. There's a quote I love from a book by the poet David White that says, the antidote to exhaustion is not necessarily rest. The antidote to exhaustion is wholeheartedness. So it really speaks to living honoring your values and living those things that are important to you, living those things that you love, because that's what brings you to life. And I think my first advice for women who are looking at making a shift is to really take a step back and get back to themselves.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Meaning set aside all of the roles and responsibilities that go along with those roles. Imagine, for example, that you were alone for an entire month. What would you do with your time? You know, if you
That
didn't
thought
have
almost seems
anyone
like
to
overwhelming. Like,
I know.
really, just time? Like,
Right?
what is-
It's actually difficult to think of that. It's a
Yeah.
big shift because we're so used to having the kids to take care of, or all of these other things that are in our agenda, things that have to be done. If you wipe all of that out and just have time, what would you do? And if you can't think right off the top of your head what you would do, it's good to sit down and make a list of all the things that you love to do. The things that you do now, that you used to do in the past, particularly things that you love doing that you don't ever do anymore. And then choose some of those to do. And of course, those things change. You may find that now you're not so interested in doing those things that you did when you were 20.
Bungee jumping
Right.
was, yesterday's pastime.
Right,
and, yeah.
exactly. But it's good to remember them and just to let all of that stuff flow. Put it all on the paper,
Yeah.
get it out, and get those juices flowing. Because when you do that, you're really connecting to you again.
It's almost like digging out the old photo albums of,
Mhm.
pre-responsibility
Yeah, that's
and
a great idea.
agenda to say, oh, I did do this. I used to travel. I used to, what did I used to do? And-
Yeah, and think about, and this is another great exercise. I really love doing exercises. Think about the times in your life when you really felt like things were perfect. Life is perfect. And that doesn't have to be, without all of those roles and responsibilities. It might have been something at work. It might have been something with your family. It might have been before work and family. Any of those times. And then really look into those moments and notice who was there, what was present, what made it so special.
That's a nice reflection.
Yeah.
After women do these exercises, what do you find happens during your next meeting with them?
Well, first of all, people really come alive when they do those exercises.
Because you're kind of like juiced up again about the sweetness, the Ross is back. and
Absolutely.
the
You
whole-
bring it all back, and it's so great, to remember those moments. And one thing about those moments that really stands out is that we're very present in those moments. So we're really just absorbing everything around us, taking it in, and just totally engaged and loving it. And I think that when people connect to those, it lights a spark. And they go, oh my gosh, I haven't done that in so long. I love doing that. And then we say, so how would you like to bring that back into your life?
Okay.
Yeah.
How can we incorporate that?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of work that's so great, and I'm a hidden little yogi with a lot of respect for the Eastern culture, and just a lot of it is in staying in the breath and the present moment, and that the present
Yeah.
moment is all we really have. So I find it interesting that by rekindling love from the past, you're bringing people into their present moment now, and they're snapping back in their bodies like, yes, this was my passion, and this was, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? That they can trigger old memories that then bring them back into today.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the knowing that you can bring those things into your life today just by doing them again, setting those moments up for yourself.
That's nice advice.
Yeah.
Because I think unless you take time to really do that, people will put things off. And I know we've had some executive coaching cases, even helping people make a paradigm shift for their betterment.
Right.
It's not remedial coaching. It's helping executives really hit it out of the park and really do a great job.
Right, yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like their fear of failure, or just they want to keep putting it off, and we'll realize, they're not ready to be coached yet. Whatever reason, they're running from looking at what they can do better or different to help make them succeed even more. Have you
Yeah.
worked with some women where all of a sudden they were realizing a little too much and they weren't quite ready to go there yet?
Absolutely, yeah, that happens often, I think. You hit up on all of those limiting beliefs when you start to dig, and coaching is about digging. Coaches don't give advice and opinion; they pull everything out of the client. The foundation is that the client has the answers, and the coach is just there to guide them and help them find those answers. But when you start to dig, you find the why. Why haven't I
It's not just treasure we
gotten
find.
there?
Yeah.
Right. And you do have wonderful aha moments, and a lot of those aha moments are about those, well, I've always thought that I wasn't capable of this, or, I just never imagined
Limited
it would be
belief.
that. Yeah, and those really, sometimes they're so deep, And they're so much a part of the way we see ourselves and the way that we see the world that we just aren't aware of them. And I think one of the beautiful things about coaching is you find them and you can acknowledge them, and they don't have to be negative. You can say, well, you know, let's just say this is it, and how would you like to be with this now?
You served me well, and adios.
Exactly.
Thank you for being here, and I don't need you anymore.
But it does take courage, and it's a challenge.
Yeah, and I think it's like whenever people get feedback, even if it's only self-discovery feedback of, wow, it stings the ego a little bit. It's hard to, you know, what do you mean I'm not perfect?
Exactly.
Even though consciously we know that we all have room for growth. Most people would say yes. I maybe know one person that would never think they have room for growth, but you know, there's always one character out there that's like, oh, what, you know, I'm fabulous all the time. But most people can really admit that there's some areas, but it is different when they start tapping into them.
Right, and your coach is there to support you. That's what coaches do. They're the person who's going to hold you up when you start to say, when you start to get that ouch, you know, I don't really want to go there. That's what the coach is there for. To hold that space for you and let you be in there and be uncomfortable with you in it, and whatever it takes.
And they come out the other side going,
exactly.
That was rough, but oh, I'm so much better afterwards.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful thing.
So what, is there a case, without naming names of course, that you can share that you really just saw such beautiful and amazing transformation of somebody just coming out of her shell, or finally shedding old skin and diving into something new that she's always wanted to do regardless of age?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. A couple that come to mind, actually. One is a younger woman who's really getting in touch with some things that are just had been kind of dormant. Really getting back, like we were talking about the peak moment, remembering things that she absolutely loved, and bringing them back into her life, and it's really having a big effect. And it's a beautiful transformation. And the other person that comes to mind is looking at different ways of seeing life. She's looking at bringing awareness into her everyday, which is something new. And it's a big shift, a really big shift. And that's another kind of transformation.
It's like taking yourself off of automatic pilot.
Yeah.
Which is so easy to get on. Time to make the donuts, you get up every day, and it feels very like Groundhog Day, the movie Groundhog Day. Sometimes it can turn into that.
Yeah, and it really changes, you know, it changes the way you see the world. I think a lot of what we change in coaching is perception, you know, how we really perceive things to be, and changing the stories that we give things.
Our inner tape.
Yeah.
Kind of changing the tape.
Yeah, changing that tape, and we have a tendency to make up stories about everything. You know, oh, that person must be thinking, or they're not being respectful of someone because of blah 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 blah. And you know, we don't know what's going on with the other people. So that, you know, bringing that into our, you know, not making up any more stories can have a big shift.
Just kind of letting it be and not putting a judgment or our own ideas and stories. Interesting. Yeah, can you imagine if that was implemented in corporate America, that, okay, no more stories, we have to just let it be.
Right, yeah, imagine.
It'd be so healthy.
The impact, yeah, would be huge.
People would know, or maybe in politics too. This could be a really big trend you're starting here. Be in the moment, don't make up stories. And thinking of women going through career transformation right now, are there any tips you can share of, you've been great at sharing some exercises for people to look at. I'm going to go home and try out a few of these.
Yeah.
What would you say for people that are looking for jobs right now? What are some things to consider as they're tapping into maybe new industries, or debating about, do I want to keep doing what I've been doing for so long?
Right. Well, I think the first thing is to look at what you've been doing, and what you loved about it and what you really didn't like. And, you know, balance those out and see if it's still a good fit for you, first of all. And look at other ways that you might bring in more of the elements of what you loved, or bring more of yourself in. So other things that you love to do that you could bring into the job, and it may be a slightly different way. You know, find a job that's similar but slightly different. That gives you opportunities for growth, particularly. Yeah.
If networking is always a big topic, and talking about, you know, meeting people and new horizons. Have you ever worked with women that need to come out of their shell more, about how to give more confidence to do that? What would you say for the powerful yet shy women, to help give them some more confidence that you can show up here and you can meet people, and don't be shy?
Right. I think that, you know, number one is don't make up stories about what anyone is going to think about you. And one thing that that I think also stands out is, a lot of times I think we have this imaginary audience. one thing I like to do is look at the different voices, the inner community, who's present. A lot of times we have the inner critic, this inner critic and that inner critic, and then this, my mom's voice in the background or whatever, these different voices that come up in different situations. And in that kind of situation, sometimes there's this unseen audience that's out there that's
watching every
judging
move.
you, right? That's saying whether you did something right or you did it wrong. And it's good to go ahead and look at that and dialogue with it, to gain that confidence, look at what scares you about it and open up a dialogue with it as if it were, someone else in the room. That can be fascinating, it's particularly in journaling, another exercise.
Yeah. I think journaling can be great. Are
Yeah.
there any particular books you would recommend to women on this journey or thinking about maybe a precursor to working with a life coach that might be insightful to read?
Oh, boy.
I know there's probably so many. Is there a particular
Yeah.
favorite that kind of jumps out for you at all?
There's a book I love called The Art of Possibility, and I'm not sure it fits exactly in what you're saying. And I know that there are tons of books out there. I wish I had could pull some others out of my hat right now, but that's an amazing one. And when I read it, it just got me so excited about every possibility that I could
the
create.
Art of possibility.
Yeah.
I think that's totally in this topic though, because we're
Yeah.
looking at how to go through change and to live wholeheartedly and
Right.
embrace everything in
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
So Art of Possibility. So we're going to be wrapping up shortly. So if people want to tap into you as a life coach, how can they find you?
They can find me online. I have a website. It's just www.paigecontinentino.com.
Okay, and we'll be listing that in the bottom of the show.
Okay.
Okay.
And they can call me.
Okay. That's wonderful.
Yes.
And so, and the sessions can be, so it's different time periods and.
Usually, when you work with a coach, you do 3 sessions a month,
Okay.
or every single week, maybe. Or you could do 2 sessions a month, but it's better to, I find it's better to keep it to 3 so that you
Have a
maintain
commitment.
that momentum.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that makes
Yeah.
sense. And thank you for the exercises. I'll be posting some of your tips on heatherswift.net so we can have audience members tap into this great
Great.
conversation and some helpful tools and hints.
Mhm.
So thank you very much for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much
and
for
all
having
your,
me.
your
It was
words of
really nice.
wisdom. I'm sure many of our fellow women folk will get a lot of good,
hope so,
good
yeah.
support from this. So thank you so much. And thank you, audience, for joining us today on the Career Corner. You can check out heatherswift.net for various shows and for any ideas of who you would like to see on the Career Corner. Please feel free to respond. And until we meet again, I wish you much career success.